my first ever game, of course, everyone would target the girl because, well, that's the weakest link. So run at the girl. And the first time I ever held the football while in an actual game, I need someone in the head and concussed them.
You just ran over the top of them.
Is that another guy?
Yeah, it was a guy, and
Yeah.
he ran at my legs, and I didn't know what to do, so I just kept running, and I need him in the head.
Go, go, go! And you're doing it, he's in! That's a massive crash. And it's happened immediately! This is amazing! Big shot, and it's lights out, and away we go!
Was this union or league?
A league.
League, okay.
Yeah.
So they were taking you seriously out there now.
I never actually played union. It looked a bit too hectic for me.
Yeah, it's a bit on top of each other and a bit wild,
Yeah.
I guess.
I played a lot of football throughout my life. So, yeah, started playing when I was 12 and played for a lot of teams throughout the years. At one point, I was playing on probably 7 teams at one time. And it was a lot of travelling and just, like, it's crazy looking back on it and just going, my parents travelled so far for me.
Was it all interstate?
A lot of it was within New South Wales. I did do some interstate stuff, but I preferred the smaller comps.
Yeah.
But yeah, I sort of started getting into motorcarnas later on and had to give up playing for some teams to be able to go to the motorcarnas.
Yeah,
And found that's where my passion really was.
with the motorcarnas thing.
Yeah.
And you have said in other podcasts where your mechanic career started when you moved out of home. So
Yeah.
what happened in that whole time of your life, that period? Can you explain?
So I haven't actually touched on this part of it properly, but of course I started as a school-based apprentice in
Yeah.
Moruya,
Yeah.
but I was working in Canberra. So I had, at first, because I was still on my L plates, I needed to be driven to Canberra and back every week. So I was doing school in Moruya Monday, Tuesday,
Yeah.
while working at Macca's, by the way.
Oh, right.
So I was doing like night shift at Macca's, school during the day. Wednesday I would drive up to Canberra. Thursday I would go to TAFE. Friday I would work at Reliance Automotive in Canberra.
Yeah.
And then go back to Moruya Friday night and work at Macca's over the weekend again.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's how much sleep did you get during that
None.
period?
None at all. And that was
Wow.
sort of when I was starting to get into the motorsport stuff as well. So there was all that on top of it.
Yeah.
And it was, looking back, I don't know how I kept that up.
What do you love most about being a mechanic though? Like what's because everyone's enthused about something on this podcast about cars. What just made you go, this is what I want to do?
It was when I did work experience there at Reliance, it was so challenging and just interesting to see how all these little things work, and like every single day there was different, and I decided I wanted to stay because I was like, yeah, I really want to do this, and there was always that option of if I don't like it, I can leave.
Yeah.
But I love it so much, the challenging aspect of it. Every day is a learning day. Every day is different.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And having John there, so I work for John Waterhouse, who used to work for Mazda Motorsport.
Yeah.
So he's got some cool stories. But having him as a mentor is just incredible. The knowledge he has is just amazing.
For those looking at a career as a mechanic, what steps would you take as like someone, obviously because the trades are dying these days because people are trying to do their own thing. What is like some encouragement for people listening to this podcast to become a mechanic?
I think a lot of people go into a dealership because it's easy, but at a dealership, look, some dealerships can be fun, don't get me wrong, but I think going and working for a private mechanic or a standalone mechanic, a smaller business, a motorsport shop, something like that, you're doing different things every day. You're not just spinning filters all day, every day, doing oil changes. And I think you enjoy it a lot more if you're having that diversity.
Yeah.
So going and doing work experience at one of these businesses and just seeing if it's a good fit for you. That's always a good option. But if it is something you're passionate about, definitely do it. A lot of people said to me, oh, if it's your passion, don't turn it into your career as well, because then it won't be a hobby anymore. But I still go to work every day, work on cars, come home, work on cars, go down to my parents' place on the weekend, work on cars.
Yeah.
I don't get sick of it.
Yeah. What do you think about, obviously in our racing circles, there's a lot of males and the male stigma. What's your feelings around like the stereotypical where it's meant to be a male mechanic? Do you get any weird feelings from that, or you just, as you said, the stereotypical type of thing? And
I think the biggest thing about being a woman in it is guys sexualize it.
Yeah.
And it's a shit thing, but it just happens.
Yeah.
And that's sort of one of the reasons I wear these are male's pants, this is baggy hoodie, and I do this so that people can't look at me as sexy being around cars.
Yeah.
I don't like to be seen as that. I want to be taken as I belong here too.
Yeah.
And men can be so gross.
I did engineering, so I know your feels there. Are you seeing more like women as mechanics now, though, as you've been doing it?
I've even mentored a few, which is super cool. Because a lot of people come up to me and say, "Hey, I've got this female mechanic that's starting. Like, can you be a contact for her if she's struggling with anything, if she has any questions?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course." And girls looking to get into the trade, and I give them the little boost they need, because the way people go about it, they think it's so much worse than it actually is. They're like, oh, people would be so sexist towards you. Like it would feel like you are just surrounded by men. It's not like that. It really isn't. Maybe 5-10 years ago it would have been, but now everyone's becoming very open-minded to it. And yeah, it's fantastic how good people are with it. I still get the occasional comment, don't get me wrong, where people think I'm the receptionist. But yeah, that's always going to happen.
Yeah, well, you know more about cars than I do, so so maybe I should be the receptionist on that part. But obviously you're huge into the mechanic business and you love fixing cars. I remember I've seen something that you're on a TV show, an American TV show. How did that all come about?
So I was 17 and I was sort of early days of my apprenticeship, and through CIT, which is where I was doing TAFE, they were doing a Summernats build, and it was a skid truck. And these American guys came over from a TV show called Street Outlaws. Yeah. And that was Farm Truck and Asian. And so they ended up filming the TV show, had all the apprentices in it. They selected a girl apprentice just to try and get views sort of thing, I think. But it ended up working great. Had so much fun, got to meet the 1320 guys, got to meet so many cool people through that, and ended up making so many connections. But sort of being on a TV show when you're 17, how cool is that?
You saw that behind the scenes of a TV show? Was there like cuts and takes and like reality TV show? Because I've been on a few sets myself. They're not what they really seem.
No, it's so different.
Yeah. So what did the producer do with you?
Well, it's funny. So we did probably 3 weeks straight of just going in and spending a few hours on the car, and the car had arrived from America late because we actually got the car brought over and it got stuck in customs for a while because there were wasps' nests in it. So
no way.
Deep cleaned. It ended up arriving 2 months late.
Jesus.
So it arrived, I think, a month and a half before Summernats. So we had to frantically get it ready. We already had most of the stuff ready to go, but because we had to get so much footage, it was putting everything on the car, taking it back off, putting it on the car, taking it back off, just so you can get those different shots and different angles. So a job that should take 10 minutes was taking 2 hours because you have to redo it over and over and over.
There's this show that Brooke watches on Netflix, which is some mechanic show. What were you saying? That you're like,
we watched like a couple of episodes only.
Is that restoration one?
Yeah, the new one with the family. what are they? The Maloofs. That
The
was
Maloofs.
it.
Yes.
Have you seen that?
Oh, I've watched bits and pieces, but I've been meaning to watch it properly.
Yeah, because Brooke was like, surely it doesn't happen in 5 minutes. Like Brooke was
I
like,
know. I'm
things.
questioning. It's like any of those home reno shows you see, like, The Block and all that. Because I come from a tradie family, I'm like, this is all lies. So I'm watching that, going, if a mechanic was sitting here, I feel that they would feel the same here.
Yeah. But one really annoying thing that they did was we had to make it look like we were really pressed for time. So it was probably 2 weeks before Christmas, and we pulled the engine and everything back out of the truck and then got the cameras rolling, and it was, oh, come on, guys, we've got to get this done in 2 days and stuff like that, and like make it look like we're really rushing. But all the fabrication had already been done. Everything had already been fitted, then taken back out. So of course, it didn't take as long to put it back in that time because all the hard work's been done. But we had to make it look like we were really pressed for time and had to get the truck out now. And that Summer Nats was in a few days. But then we finished building the truck, all went on Christmas break and came back for Summer Nats after that. So, yeah.
Do you go to Summer Nats every year though, or not really?
I didn't go last year, but I've been every year since the farm truck build. So the farm truck build was actually my first ever year going.
Yeah.
But I never went when I was a kid because it was a bit rowdier.
Yeah. It's a pretty rowdy scene, the Summer Nats.
It still is. Like, I remember I was crossing the road sort of near Tough Street, and I was trying to get out of the place because it was the afternoon. I had heat stroke. It was horrible. And of course, it was the Saturday Arvo, and the Saturday Arvo at Summer Nats is just insane. And I had guys screaming out. I was wearing a black shirt, and I had guys screaming out, black shirt, black shirt. And I was just like, oh no, don't look at me.
Yeah, it's pretty rowdy, that place. I've never been to Summer Nats, so that's why I want to know from your experience what it's actually like.
It's calmed down a lot.
Yeah.
But it's still a lot of fun, and of course drunk guys will be drunk guys.
Yeah.
They're going to be crude. They're in that environment.
So back to the racing thing, you're hugely involved in the RX8 Cup Series, and you and your parents, you and your dad built a lot of cars yourself and help keep that community going. How did you get into the RX8 Cup Series?
So when I first started working at Reliance, of course my boss John has a lot to do with rickshaw because Rotary World's very small. And my boss was one of the category officials, so he kept telling me about this RX8 Cup Series that he was going and helping out at, and one of the cars had come up for sale. And Dad and I sort of went back and forth, do we do it, do we not? Not really sure. And we ended up just doing it. Like, we found some sponsorship, bought the car, and got into the series. And let me tell you, I was not ready to race. Like, I'd driven the car probably 3 times before I did my first ever race, and I'd never driven amongst other cars. I was just thrown out there, Wakefield Park, for my first ever race. It sleeted, it hailed, it rained.
Typical Wakefield
Park. It was
Park
40
weather.
degrees. It was, typical Wakefield Park. Yeah. And that was my first experience with RX8 Cup, and everyone was so friendly. Everyone was willing to help me out. And it's funny looking back at all those people like diving in to help me out, offering assistance where they could and stuff, and now I'm the one under their cars changing their gearboxes so they can get out in the next race.
We were talking about Wakefield Park before, how obviously we're down to one track now in the New South Wales Cup in the Cup Series that you're in, and like Pheasants Wood's a potential circuit. Do you reckon that can come through and that'll be like a decent track once it's all done?
I've seen the plans for it, and let me tell you, if it goes ahead, which it's looking like it will, it's going to be incredible. It's going to be like the Bend.
The Bend,
the Bend
in Sydney, because we can't just have one. We can't just have one track in Sydney. Like, it's going to be ridiculous.
It's boring.
Yeah. And
doing the same track over and over and over.
And you coming from your way, it's a massive trip as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's good. That's why it's good to have Wakefield and Sydney. Where if we had Marulan, that's near Wakefield again, it'd be equal.
So Wakefield Park was sort of in the perfect position for us because we've got the 3-car race team. We struggle to move all 3 cars around just for testing. So Wakefield Park was perfect because you can take half a day off work, go test the car. It's an hour from where I live, 2 hours from where my parents live. So it was just very convenient for testing the cars, and it had the really tight technical staff, had the straights, had the long sweeping corner, all of that stuff to be able to properly test a car. And it was close. So it was just perfect for us. So without it, it's sort of, we're struggling to get the cars tested and get the cars to round. So,
Want to hear more? Each week we will share the hottest clips from our guest interviews on YouTube. But to hear the full episode, make sure to subscribe or follow us on your favourite podcast platform.